Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel here, Matt's Off the Cuff Gaming. I am your host, Matt. One of the things that we're going to do today is talk about the NFL playoffs that are coming up here this weekend. Today is Friday, January 14th, 2022, and we have a whole slate of games on the tap this weekend. We've got, I think, what was it? Is it 3 games? Here, let's, hold on. This is what happens. One second here. Let's actually get up to the actual schedule here. Oh, yeah. Okay, so tomorrow on the 15th, January 15th, we've got the Raiders and the Bengals, and we've got the Patriots and the Bills. And then Saturday or Sunday, we got 3 games. We got we got the other two NFC games. We got the Eagles and the Buccaneers. We've got the 49ers and the Cowboys. And then we got the Chiefs and the Steelers. And then Monday night, which I don't like Monday night playoff games. I think that's kind of crazy, but we'll see how it works this year. We've got the Arizona Cardinals going up against the Los Angeles Rams. So, what we've got here in front of me, we've got a playoff bracket. And I actually was looking online for several of these things I could fill out in this dynamic, and all of them, every single one I looked at before this one, it didn't account for the seeds, for the highest seed remaining playing the lowest seed remaining, and that sort of thing, how it kind of switches around. It's not a pure bracket like the NCAA tournament. So what I wanted to do here was bring this up here. I'm going to talk about the games. And I just want a full disclosure here. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. You guys have seen a couple of my videos last year. I made some predictions. I predicted the AFC Championship game exactly right. I predicted the score 38-24. And like I said in the video, the Bills got their 24 points in a way I didn't really think they would get it, with, what was it, 4 field goals and 2 touchdowns and 2 missed extra points. But they still got their 24 points I said they would, and the Chiefs still scored 38 like I thought they would. Of course, I missed the prediction on the Super Bowl, but then I had that video where I reacted to the Super Bowl, gave all the props to the Buccaneers and Tom Brady and that tremendous defense last year. And that video, guys, I got 118 subscribers. Okay, so I don't have a ton of subscribers here. That video went viral. There was viewed like 50,000 times. It was absolutely insane. Maybe not 50,000. Maybe it was like 30,000 views. Anyway, a lot more views than you would think for someone who at the time only had like 30 subscribers. I've gained like 80 subs over this past year by doing video game content. So still looking to grow the channel a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see how that comes along. Again, this is just something I do for fun. It's something I do just on the side. I don't really care too much about it. We're just doing it for fun. Okay, so like I said, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I really do like the Chiefs in this playoff bracket. Now that being said, there's a lot of teams that can beat the Chiefs, and I know the whole adage of any given Sunday, anybody can beat anybody. Okay, whatever. That's true most of the time, but there are some games that are just really, really poor matchups for the other teams when they come to the Chiefs. But we're not going to make this all about the Chiefs. We're going to talk about all the matchups. Again, like I said, I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm not an NFL analyst. I don't know everything about the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know everything about the New England Patriots. I'm a fan of one team who pays attention to the NFL, okay? So these are my predictions. If you don't like them, go crazy in the comments. Tell me I'm a moron. That's fine. I am going to put logic and reason behind my picks, okay? All right, so the first game of the weekend is this one right here. This is interesting. Okay. All right. It doesn't seem like a real. Here's the matchup. Here's the matchup. Here's the matchup. All right. So the Raiders and the Bengals. How do I see this game going? Look, the Raiders were no team in NFL history. I think going back. Well, I think 1961. It was. I can't remember what team it was. I heard this stat the other day. But anyway, it's the first time in 60 years that a team has switched coaches in the middle of the season and has made the playoffs. So congratulations to the Raiders for that. They gave us a tremendous game on Sunday night against the Chargers. People talk about how the Raiders snuck into the playoffs. Look, they're a 5 seed. Okay, they're 10-7. That's a solid record for a 17-game schedule. When they're not playing the Chiefs, they're 10-5. So they win 2 out of every 3 games when they're not playing the Chiefs. So How do I see this? Excuse me, got a little bit of a getting over a cold here. How do I see this game going? I honestly don't think the Raiders have a chance in this game, which, ironically enough, makes me think that they have a chance in this game. Um, but that being said, the Bengals are at home. The Bengals are going to be so hyped up for this game. They haven't won a playoff game since 1990, which was that when Boomer Esiason was their quarterback. They never managed to win a game under Martin Lewis. They never managed to win a game with Carson Palmer, who was a tremendous quarterback. The Bengals are kind of a snake bit franchise. I look at this matchup though, and the Raiders have a very poor secondary. And the Raiders should have beat the Chargers by 2 or 3 touchdowns. Honestly, if they just would have played a little tougher on the edge in the secondary, and not just leave these large cushions. But the problem is that they don't have a lot of talent in their secondary, and so Justin Herbert took advantage of it. Now, I think there was a little bit of luck involved there. The amount of fourth down plays that the Chargers converted on those 2 drives were just incredible. But you have to take advantage of teams that don't play very well against the pass. Look, the Chiefs destroyed the Raiders twice this year, and because the Raiders don't play that well against teams that throw the ball over the field. They would stack up much better against a team like the Steelers or the Patriots or even the Titans. But going up against the Bengals, I don't see the Raiders having much of a shot here. I see this game as kind of a close game for a little while, but I see it more of kind of like a 28-17, 31, 31-21 type of game. I see it as a 2-score game, a 2-score win for the Bengals. So we're going to go ahead and put the Bengals on to the next round. The next game is one of the more difficult games to predict. The Patriots and the Bills. Now, so the Patriots and Bills split their season series this year with the visiting team winning each game. So the Patriots won in Buffalo and the Bills won in Foxborough. Now, I could put a little asterisk next to the game in Buffalo because there was gale force winds, hurricane level winds, 75 mile per hour straight line winds that were blowing in that game. It was just insane. And Mac Jones threw three passes and they just ran the ball and Josh Allen couldn't do anything. It's not just the weather, though, that affects Josh Allen. Josh Allen is heralded as sometimes as like the next greatest quarterback in the AFC or in the NFL in general. I don't see it, okay? He puts up tremendous stats, but the guy, first of all, he holds the ball way too long. He's like Joe Burrow in this, or maybe Joe Burrow's like him in this regard. Because I said the same thing about Josh Allen last year before the AFC Championship game. Josh Allen holds the ball way too long looking for that perfect play to develop. And when you're going up against a good defense, sometimes that perfect play to develop is never going to happen. He takes really bad sacks. He makes really poor decisions sometimes. And sometimes that gunslinger mentality, sometimes he comes out on top, just like Brett Favre did, when Brett Favre was playing. But Josh Allen, while he can break things down and run with the ball too, running quarterbacks or quarterbacks who look to run like Allen does, like Lamar Jackson does, these guys they're taking more hits. They're going to put themselves at risk that any one play that they're going to suddenly go out of the game. I think this is the only matchup in the first round that the Bills really didn't want to see. They didn't want to see their arch nemesis, the Patriots, there. Yeah, the Bills beat the Patriots in Foxborough. I think probably on a regular weather day, the Bills probably would have beaten the Patriots and Mac Jones in that game. They probably would have swept the series with New England this year. But that being said, it's going to be cold. It's going to be single-digit temperatures in Buffalo. That does not bode well for the Buffalo Bills. I honestly think if they really do think that in Buffalo that Josh Allen is their future, they need to build a new stadium and put a dome on it, because that's the kind of quarterback that Josh Allen is. He needs better weather than what is typically afforded in Buffalo. So how do I see this game going? Look, I'm not a big Mac Jones fan. I think Mac Jones is a fine quarterback. He had a good rookie season. And I think he's going to be a serviceable quarterback for years to come. I see him like an Alex Smith type of player, honestly. A guy that's going to win some playoff games here and there. He's going to lead his team, but I don't ever see him winning a Super Bowl unless lightning strikes and New England gets some insane defense like they had several years back. But in this game, I think Bill Belichick, he has Buffalo's number and he's in their head. And I really do think the Patriots are going to pull the upset here. The Bills tailored their entire team this offseason in order to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Ironically enough, they didn't tailor their team to beat the Patriots. In a solid defensive team, especially if the Patriots are going to slow this game down, make it into a fist fight. The Bills aren't going to come out on top of that. The Bills are a little softer than the Patriots, and I do see the Patriots pulling the upset here. I see a lower scoring game than typical just because of the weather. I see like 24-17, 24-20 in favor of the Patriots. So we're going to go ahead and advance them on. Now it puts them over here, but as soon as I pick the Chiefs game, it'll bump this over here. Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. That's the next game on the slate. This is the Sunday. This is the noon game on Sunday. I'm not going to talk too much about this. The Eagles are completely overmatched here. Tom Brady, even with the injured roster that the Buccaneers have, the Buccaneers still have way too much on defense. Jalen Hurts is a really fine upcoming quarterback. A very unique talent, very athletic. They run the ball well, but they're facing their own injuries in the backfield. I don't see this being much of a game. I see Tampa Bay winning by 17 to 21 points here. I think they're going to completely blow the wheels off the Eagles here. And again, they're not going to play the Packers, but once they pick these other games, it'll work itself out. San Francisco and Dallas. A lot of people are picking the 49ers to upset the Cowboys here, and I agree with them. And here's why. It's not because of the quarterback play. I do think Garoppolo is a better quarterback than Prescott. Some people are like, oh, no, you can't be saying that. There's no way that you can say that Dak is not as good as Jimmy G. Look, Jimmy G is a fine quarterback, and he led his 49ers to the Super Bowl 2 years ago and came up just short against the Chiefs. They had the lead with about 6 minutes to go. Or actually, it was less than that. It was like 3 minutes ago. They still had the lead. But what's at stake here is the Cowboys have an inflated record. The NFC East is absolutely deplorable. I don't even know how the Giants managed to win a handful of games this year, and even the Eagles are not that good. But they still somehow made the playoffs. And then you got the Redskins or Washington football team or whatever they're going to be called next. The Red Wolves or the Guardians or the Senators or something. It is an absolute horrendous division. And when they don't play that division, they're a very average football team. They're barely a 500 team. The 49ers played a much more difficult schedule. And that's about all there is to say against this. The game is in Dallas. But I do think that the 49ers are gonna come up here, and I don't even think it's going to be that close of a game. I see the 49ers winning this game 28 to 20, 28-17, somewhere in that range, anywhere from 8 to 11 points. I think the Cowboys are just I think they're riding high based on winning a lot of games against some very inferior opponents. And that's why I'm going to pick the 49ers to upset them here. So I've picked both 6 seeds to win. I just think both 3 seeds are incredibly flawed. All right, so now my team, the Kansas City Chiefs, go against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one either. We saw this game 3 weeks ago on the day after Christmas. Big Ben is a Hall of Fame quarterback, okay? He's going to be in the Hall of Fame someday. He's going to be in Canton. But he's washed up. He has no arm strength left. This is a game where, people say, well, they went 9-7-1 and probably should have been 10-7, and they might be able to surprise the Chiefs. Look, any other playoff year, the Steelers are not a playoff team. They are benefited from the 7th seed being in. Kansas City any other year would have had a bye. So we could say this is probably one of the biggest mismatches in the first round in NFL playoff history. Any given Sunday, any team can win. Absolutely. I just don't see this happening for the Pittsburgh Steelers for several reasons. One, I just mentioned, Big Ben, Roethlisberger, he has no arm strength left, okay? He doesn't move around like he used to. Now, granted, he was never a mobile quarterback, but he could always move around in the pocket. And one of the biggest things he always had was that he was so hard to sack. The guy he's like a wet tissue paper now. You touch him and he goes down, okay? Look, I'm not trying to pile on the guy. He just doesn't have it anymore. You reach a certain point in your career and you just don't have it. And Roethlisberger is at that point of his career. This is a terrible matchup for the Steelers. I think if the Steelers played the Patriots, maybe the Titans, they could make an ugly game out of it. They're not going to make an ugly game out of the Chiefs. Look, people talk about, well, the Chiefs are dealing with injuries, and if T.J. Watt has a legendary game, and Roethlisberger has a legendary game, and Mahomes throws 4 interceptions, and the Chiefs turn the ball over like they did in the beginning of the season. Like, what? Listen to what your guys are talking about here. Look, it's not the beginning of the season. The Chiefs have won 9 of their last 10 games, and honestly, has anybody ever really gone back and studied all those interceptions? I put that in quotes, and they were real interceptions. But all those interceptions that Patrick Mahomes threw, did you know that 7 of his interceptions went off his receiver's hands? And all of them went into defenders' hands for an interception. Tyreek Hill alone has generated 5 interceptions for Patrick Mahomes on balls that have gone right through his hands, bounced off his face mask, or bounced off his hands or off his chest, up in the air, and look, it's a gift for the defender. Of his 7 of his interceptions, again, it's the 7 number, have been on passes that were predicted to be 75% or higher completions for the Chiefs. So that's a lot of bad luck for Patrick Mahomes on some of those. And if let's say only 2 of those become interceptions, and the Chiefs get maybe 2 touchdowns out of the other 2 passes or out of the other 2 drives, maybe they beat the Ravens. Maybe they beat the Chargers. Maybe there's, instead of 12-5, we're looking at a 14-3 team or a 15-2 team. So, look, the Chiefs had a lot of bad luck happen to them in the beginning of the season. Yes, they played some bad defense too. But at the end of the day, they righted the ship, and the defense started playing better. The offense was more consistent. And look, back in the game 3 weeks ago with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Travis Kelce didn't play. He was on the COVID list. Tyreek Hill was coming off the COVID list, even though he didn't miss a game, but he couldn't practice. And he obviously was not really there. He had 2 catches for 19 yards. He played about a third of the snaps. So Tyreek Hill was not a factor at all. So the Chiefs went into the Steelers game, and they faced a team that basically had nothing left, but they still had their starters playing. Harris was there, Roethlisberger was there. The Chiefs were playing their 3rd and 4th string receivers. They were dependent on guys like, their 2 backup tight ends, which I can't even think of their names right now, and Byron Pringle and Robinson, and Mecole Hardman. And Patrick Mahomes just did his thing, and the Chiefs completely blew the doors off the Steelers. No chance. No chance for the Steelers in this game. Chiefs are going to win this game 35-13, 31-13. Patrick Mahomes is 50-2 in his career when the other team doesn't score 30 points. So you have to score 30 points essentially to beat the Chiefs under Patrick Mahomes. Some teams can do that. The Bengals can. The Bills can. The Steelers, with the ghost of Ben Roethlisberger as their quarterback, no chance. There's no chance that the Steelers are scoring 30 points. And then the final game of the first round, we got the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams. Look, Arizona is an absolute fraud. Kyler Murray is a decent young quarterback, but the Rams are playing better football, even though I think they lost the last game of the season. Um, the Cardinals looked like the best team in football when they were playing the rejects of the league. And then they started playing better teams. They started losing. Look, I don't know too much about either of these teams. I'm going Rams big time here. I'm going to pause the video here for a second because I got to blow my nose. I don't want to do that on camera. If I can figure out how to pause it. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. I was getting a little nasally there. I had to clear out the cavities here. So, yeah, it was an awful Christmas break. The place that I work at, we shut down for Christmas, and so we don't have to take vacation, and we get 6 or 7 business days off. Depends on where Christmas falls in the calendar, and where New Year's falls. So basically, we get Christmas Eve off. So I was off from the 23rd. Well, the 23rd was the last day to work, and I had to go back to work on January 3rd. And I took in a couple extra days, so the 21st was the last day I worked. With the exception of a couple days over Christmas, I was actually feeling fine at Christmas, but I got sick on the 21st, was down for a couple days, but I got better by Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, I was fine. Then the 26th hit, the day that the Chiefs, destroyed the Steelers. That night, I started feeling bad, and then I was sick all break. And even going back to work on the 3rd, I was still sick for a couple days, and I work from home 100% of the time, and I couldn't even work both those full days. It was awful. Whatever's going around right now, it wasn't COVID. I didn't have COVID, but sinus infection, flu, bronchitis, you name it. I had it. So getting over that, I feel a lot better now, though. So I'm ready to bring you guys some more content here, some more NFL playoff predictions. All right, so we've got the divisional round set. And as you can see, I got the same seeds. I got the 2, the 4s, and the 6. I got all the odd number seeds losing in the first round that play in the first round. So don't like the odds. I like the evens. So kind of like the Star Trek movies. I like the even number movies. The odd number movies are not good. The even number ones, yeah, those are the good ones. So. All right, so since I don't know how this is going to play on the divisional round in terms of the schedule, we're just going to go left to right. I'm going to start with the Titans and the Patriots. Look, the Patriots definitely can win this game. The Titans are a flawed number 1 team, and with respect to their fans, Derrick Henry. You just can't come back from missing that much time and then just expect to, rush for 170 yards in every game and maintain the workload. And their backup running back, I totally forgot his name. I put him on my fantasy team because I had to pick up somebody because I was losing so many players to injuries and COVID. They have a decent backup. Their quarterback, Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill depends on play action passes to be successful. Other than that, Ryan Tannehill is a journeyman serviceable quarterback. And I don't think you're ever going to win a Super Bowl with a guy like Ryan Tannehill. The Titans are building their team around defense and running the football. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of the Chiefs teams in the 90s. And the Chiefs had a couple number 1 seeds in the 90s. They had it in 95. They had it in 97. And what happened in both those years? They ran into better offensive teams in the divisional round, and they lost. Now, you could argue the 95 team losing to the Colts, that was kind of a fluke with Lynn Elliott missing 3 field goals. Look, this is not a game. I don't want to go into that. That's just ridiculous history. So how do I see this game going? Look, I do think that Tannehill's a better quarterback than Mac Jones, and typically I favor the better quarterbacks in matchups like this. Selfishly, as a Chiefs fan, I would love to see the AFC Championship game back in Arrowhead, and the only way that happens is if the Titans lose. That being said, I don't see the Titans losing to the Patriots. I see an ugly, ugly game. 13-6, 10-9. If the over-under was 25 points, I would take the under in this game. This is going to be a sloppy game. This is going to be a defense game. This is going to be a game that is going to set football back 50 years, in my opinion. Titans are going to win this game. Chiefs and Bengals. Now, we saw this game a couple weeks ago where the Bengals beat the Chiefs by 3 points by a field goal as time expired. Now, as a Chiefs fan, I was very upset about that game. I was upset at the officiating. I thought it was one of the worst officiating games I've ever seen in my life. Now, that's my biased Chiefs hat on, okay? I took my biased Chiefs hat off, just like I did when I evaluated the Super Bowl last year. And when I said that, yeah, in the first half against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there was some questionable calls that went against the Chiefs, but at the end of the game, it probably only cost the Chiefs 4 points. The questionable officiating in the Bengals game cost the Chiefs at least 2 touchdowns. And when I say that, I'm talking about keeping drives alive for the Bengals. I'm not even talking about the questionable holding call on Byron Pringle's kickoff return for a touchdown. The Chiefs made a lot of mistakes against the Bengals the first time around. They refused to double Chase. Rashard Fenton actually had a really good game. He played well. He had great coverage on Chase. He caught 11 passes. 7 of those 11 passes were less than 30% chance to be caught when Burrow threw the ball, based on the coverage that was played by Fenton. We're not even talking about 50-50 balls up in the air. This is a defensive back who's blanketing the receiver, and the receiver just goes out and makes a tremendous play. All credit in the world to Jamar Chase for that game. The guy is an unbelievable talent. He had a tremendous game. But there is a little bit of luck involved when you make that many catches on balls that typically shouldn't be caught. And you catch all of them. You catch 100% of them. Guys, the statistics don't bear out over time. Probability usually wins. And if they don't complete a couple of those passes, or he doesn't get that toe down right along the sideline, some third or fourth down play isn't good, maybe the Chiefs end up holding on. Look, the Chiefs played a C- game and still just about won against all of the odds, against 2 historic performances by Burrow and Chase, and against questionable officiating. Look, it's not just me as a Chiefs fan saying the officiating was questionable in that game. There were a couple calls that went for the Chiefs in the first half that were definitely shouldn't have gone in the Chiefs' favor. They were. But when you look at the totality of it, how do you miss false starts and then call on the defense? That happened 3 times in the game. How do you miss a non-horse collar tackle and then call it a personal foul as a horse collar tackle when there was no horse collar tackle? When you really break down what happened with the officiating in that first game against the Bengals and the Chiefs, it was a crew that was working for the first time together, and there were several replacement officials working because of COVID, because the normal officials weren't available to work together. So it was a hodgepodge crew that had never worked together, and they had to figure it out. And like any type of team, there is synergies and there is things that officials do that they work well together. Some crews that work really well together, others don't. You can't just take, the 7 best referees, the head referees, and put them on the field together and say you're now a crew for the playoffs. Well, that's a disaster ready to happen. They used to do that for the Super Bowl, and it was never really that well received. Now you need to take the crews that work well together. Okay. So again, the Chiefs played a poor game. They had a poor game plan against Jamar Chase, and the officials were bad. All of those things are true, okay? And the Bengals won. The Chiefs did enough to lose the game for themselves without having to worry about the officials, because the Chiefs still could have won that football game, even with all of the calls that went that way. They could have made some more adjustments on the receivers of Cincinnati to win, but they didn't. So, what's going to happen the second time around now that the game's in Kansas City? Well, first of all, you're not going to face a replacement officiating crew. Okay, you're going to get a great crew who knows what they're doing, and that's going to favor the Chiefs. The officials always typically favor home teams. Now you're saying, okay, well, so you're saying that the officials are going to favor the Chiefs down this game. It's not exactly what I'm saying, but what I am saying is that officials are swayed, whether it's in the NFL, the NBA, college basketball. College basketball is the worst, where referees and officials get caught up in the emotion of the home crowd. Look, as a Missouri Tiger fan, well, as a former Missouri Tiger fan, I don't follow the Missouri Tigers anymore, but the amount of times that I would see the Missouri Tigers go to Allen Fieldhouse and play the Kansas Jayhawks, and I would see just absolute horrendous officiating. Or look, I'll use one that I'm not even biased for. The Duke Blue Devils. How often do they get calls at Cameron Indoor? And this is something that I have criticized officials in the NBA and the NFL and college basketball for decades. They're calling what they think they see versus actually what is actually happening. Okay? And I think that was part of the thing. What happened in the game 3 weeks ago with the Bengals is that if Jamar Chase didn't make a catch, it must be pass interference on the Chiefs. And sometimes officials can get really overly emotional and involved due to the home crowds and how they're reacting. Okay? It does happen. Don't say it doesn't happen. Don't say I'm just a Chiefs homer and just dismiss this. This definitely happens. Take off your biased cap for whatever team you root for. Look at it objectively, and do know that officials are human beings. They are emotional beings, and they can make mistakes. Now, that was a long rant about officiating, okay? How do I see this game going? This game's going to be much more evenly played, okay? I think the Bengals are going to expend so much emotion and energy and joy and just happy to be here moments in that game against the Raiders, which I think they'll win that game fairly easily. That, yeah, they're going to want to beat the Chiefs, but I think the Kansas City comes out and flattens them. Similar to what the Chiefs did last year, against the Buffalo Bills. The Bengals are an up-and-coming team, and Joe Burrow and his complement of receivers, this is going to be a scary team in the upcoming years. Their fatal flaw is their offensive line, and they're going to get Joe Burrow killed if they don't improve that offensive line. And, I mean, they had a historic performance against the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. How does this game match out? And look, and the Chiefs still sacked him, 5 or 6 times in that game. In Arrowhead, I don't see Joe Burrow coming through. I do see the Chiefs advancing on, moving on to face the Titans in a rematch of the AFC Championship game 2 years ago. 49ers and Packers. I've spent so much time talking about these games over here. We're moving the Packers on. Sorry. Packers are just a better team. Rams and Buccaneers. The Rams can beat the Buccaneers. They absolutely can. You know what? And they are. And they're going to win this game. Tom Brady goes down in the divisional round. Sorry, Tom. See ya. Goodbye. All right, AFC Championship game. Chiefs and Titans. This game is not in Arrowhead. It's in Tennessee. Look, the Tennessee Titans beat the Chiefs 27-3 back in Week 7, dropping the Chiefs to 3-4. 27-3. What did I say? 27-3. The Chiefs got a field goal. It was the worst game of Patrick Mahomes' career. Even worse, more worse than the Super Bowl last year. That game was a wake-up call. The Chiefs have only lost one game since then, and that was the game against the Bengals. That really could have been a victory for the Chiefs if they had obviously done a few more things. The Chiefs also lost to the Titans in 2019 in the regular season. Granted, it was a closer game than 27-3. And the Chiefs came back in the conference championship game that year, and the Titans never had a chance. Derrick Henry was completely ineffective. He had a couple good runs in the first quarter as the Titans built an early lead, but then the Chiefs came back, and then that was all she wrote. Patrick Mahomes had an incredible game. against the Titans. What's going to happen this time? The Titans aren't that much of a different team. They rely on Tannehill's play-action passes. They rely on a strong running game and a strong defense. I'm sorry, that's not going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. It beat the Chiefs in Week 7. Absolutely. So if you want to go into the comments and say, hey, you're saying there's no chance. I'm not saying there's no chance. I put it at like 60-40. I put a 60% chance for the Chiefs to win, 40% chance for the Titans. So I think out of you play it 10 times, the Chiefs win 10. The Chiefs win 6 times. The Titans win 4 times. So maybe 7-3. The Chiefs are they're a better football team than the Titans. And the one thing that I can say unequivocally about the Kansas City Chiefs this year versus all these other teams that are vying for them, the Chiefs, not only did they play the toughest schedule in football, their strength of schedule is number 1. Okay, I hear all these these talking heads talk about how the Chiefs had a favorable schedule, and it was a favorable schedule that they played. No, they played the toughest schedule in football. Oh well, you didn't play Aaron Rodgers. You got to play Jordan Love. I'm sorry. Did the Packers defense just take the day off? We still had to play the Packers defense, and the Chiefs were missing quite a few players in that game as well. That was a tough game for the Chiefs. Oh yeah, well the Cowboys they were without CeeDee Lamb and they were without all these other receivers and the officiating was bad in that game. Remember what I said about the Cowboys earlier in this video? The Cowboys are a 500 team when they're not playing their own division. The Chiefs definitely win that game regardless of who's at the receiver. You beat the Raiders twice. I'm sorry. Aren't the Raiders the 5 seed on the playoff bracket here? The Chiefs were 6-3 against playoff teams. That's all I gotta say about that. Chiefs win this game. They're going back to the Super Bowl. Packers and Rams. Rams have a puncher's chance in this game. The Packers are just a more complete team. Packers. So here we go. We got the Super Bowl matchup everybody wanted last year. And maybe 2 years ago? Yeah, even wanted 2 years ago. We're finally going to get it this year. Packers and Chiefs. We're finally going to get to see Mahomes and Rodgers play and not Jordan Love. How's this game going? Well, of course I'm picking the Chiefs. What do you think? I'm a biased Chiefs homer. Of course I'm picking the Chiefs to beat the Packers. I think the Packers will probably win that game, honestly. But I'm not going to... Look, the Chiefs are going to get the Super Bowl. I'm going to find every reason to pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. So, anyway, that's my bracket. That's how I see it going down. Again, yeah, I admit I'm biased against the Chiefs. But I watch the Chiefs enough, and I know their faults, and I know their struggles. Look, there is no perfect team in this NFL playoff bracket, especially on the AFC side. There are holes, there are gaps on every team. The thing is that the Titans are a farce of a number 1 seed. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to call it as it is. They are a farce as a number 1 seed. They probably are the worst number 1 seed I've ever seen. And you can say, well, the Chiefs aren't even number 1. If they're the worst number 1 seed you've seen, then your Chiefs are number 2. Look, the Chiefs are a flawed team as well. But when you match up their flaws against everybody else, and how I think the bracket's going to go here, playing the Bengals in the second round, getting the Titans, even the Titans on the road, the Chiefs definitely can win those games. And against the Packers, look, this is a coin flip game. You know, I could sit here and say the Packers are going to win this game. Chiefs. In order for the Chiefs to win this game, they're going to have to outscore them, okay? It's not going to be a defensive struggle. It's going to be like 38-35, 41-38, 45-44, something like that. Oh, 45-44. Geez, that reminds me of the Colts game from 2013. Hey, tackle somebody for a chance. Hey, Andrew Luck, don't let the... never mind. Gee, many Christmas. I hate the Colts, and I am so glad the Colts aren't in this playoff bracket, okay? Screw the Colts. Final thoughts here, as I'm at 40 minutes on this video, which is way too long, but it is what it is. Look, I know you probably don't like my homer attitude towards the Chiefs. Okay, I've been following the. So just to give you a little background on me, I've been following the Chiefs since 1989. I was 10 years old, and the Chiefs were a nobody football team in the 80s. Kansas City was very much a baseball town, baseball and college basketball town. People loved the Royals and they loved the Kansas Jayhawks, and the Chiefs were just going through this, endless, just nondescript teams throughout the 80s. And then '88 happened, and they went like 4-11-1 or 4-12 or something like that. They were just a bad football team. And I remember I would get the sports page when I was a kid, and I would look at the scores on Monday morning, and I would see, oh, the Chiefs lost 28-5, and I'm like, 5? They means they got a safety? I was always fascinated by that. They had an okay defense, but their offense was awful. And then they just changed everything. They brought in Carl Peterson as the GM. They brought in Marty Schottenheimer as the head coach. I was in 5th grade. And the Chiefs did an amazing thing to get kids interested in the NFL. They had this program with elementary schools where they would send out a packet of pictures and statistics and rules of the game and everything. And they would send them out to the elementary schools in the Kansas City area. I was one of them. I went to Robinson Elementary when I was in 5th grade. I was in the Raytown School District at the time. And one of the things that that we did was every week we learned about a new player or coach. The first one we learned about was Marty Schottenheimer. The next one we learned about was Carl Peterson. And the third week we learned about Christian Okoye, and then Duron Cherry. And then the season started. I think we learned about 2 per week, but it wasn't just learning about the players. We learned about their bios and their statistics. We learned about officiating calls. We learned this is holding. We learned this is false start, and we learned what that means as 5th graders. Okay, and here's my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Taylor. Bonnie Taylor was my 5th grade teacher, and she was a tough teacher, but man, I loved Mrs. Taylor. She was really awesome. Old school teacher. She taught me a lot about life. And Mrs. Taylor was teaching this stuff. And then looking back at it, I'm like, she was up there. She was probably in her 60s when I had her. And she probably was thinking, this stuff is just absolute crazy, teaching these kids about football. But it was important. It was important for the community, for my generation at the time. I was 10 years old, almost 11. I had turned 11 later in the year, then later in that school year. But in 1989, I was 10 when I started 5th grade, and it was important for my generation to learn about what the NFL was, and the interest in kids my age. Now all of a sudden, you started seeing kids wearing the Chiefs, Zubaz pants, and the Chiefs sweatshirts, and then people buying Chiefs jackets, and the appetite for NFL increased so much. And going into 1990, and then 91, and then the Chiefs ended up getting Joe Montana in 1993 when I started high school, and the interest was just insane in the NFL. And I had. Of the all the teams that were there at that time, it wasn't 32 teams, and maybe it was 30 or maybe it was 28. I can't remember, but I had an NFL hat for almost every team except the rivals. I didn't have a Chargers hat, I didn't have a Raiders hat, I didn't have a Broncos hat, but I had just about every other kind of hat there was, and I had matching shirts to go with it. And I wore a different NFL outfit every day to school in junior high. I loved it. And everybody did that. That's what we did. I loved the Miami Dolphins. I loved the color scheme of the Dolphins. The teal and everything. And it was one of those things where I became an NFL fan at that age because of the work that the Chiefs did in the elementary schools. And so people say, talk about. I'm sure the reason why I'm saying all this is because I'm sure I'll get some comments. Oh, you're one of these bandwagon fans that just joined on when Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes. No. No, I remember the Steve DeBerg days. I remember Dave Craig. I remember Derek Thomas sacking Dave Craig 7 times at Arrowhead and just missed the 8th one, and that 8th one won the game for the Seahawks. I was 11 years old, almost 12 years old when that happened. I still remember that to this day. Okay? Don't tell me I'm a bandwagon fan. I have a photographic memory. I remember so many games, from the early 90s, early and mid 90s. I remember going to college and, in 1997. And, the 97 Chiefs weren't supposed to be anything. And lo and behold, they go out and win 13 games and they get the number one playoff seed, but they can't beat the Broncos because John Elway is John Elway. And Terrell Davis is Terrell Davis, and the Broncos won back-to-back Super Bowl titles. I sat through the no defense years of Dick Vermeil when Vermeil was here for 5 seasons. And people remember those 5 years like they were some great thing. Look, they went to the playoffs one time and they lost in the divisional round as the 1 seed to the Colts in the no punt game. The other 4 years of Dick Vermeil, no playoffs. Those were tough times. Even in 2005, in Vermeil's last season, the Chiefs went 10-6 and somehow still missed the playoffs. And then, of course, the ridiculousness of the Herm Edwards years, taking a great offensive team and tearing them down because he doesn't like offensive football. And then Romeo Crennel taking over and the Chiefs turning into the worst team in football, 2-14 in 2008. Running Brody Croyle and Tyler Thigpen out there on a day-to-day basis. Don't tell me I have it good as a Chiefs fan because I've sat through some of the worst nonsense you have ever seen in an NFL franchise. And some of the most tragic things, too. One of our linebackers blowing his brains out in front of Romeo Crennel and Carl Peterson, or in Todd, or not Carl Peterson, who was the GM at the time. I forget his name. A guy committing suicide in the parking lot in front of his GM and his coach because he had just killed the mother of his child. There have been some dark times here in Kansas City, and look, and even the Andy Reid years have not been all that great. Dealing with the Andy Reid's son getting into that accident last year, right before the Super Bowl, which I think had a tremendous impact on their psyche for the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers. But the one thing I always go back to now is that my team was always the team historically that had the good defense and the good running game, but never had the better quarterback. That's not the case anymore. Patrick Mahomes is typically the better quarterback in almost every matchup he's in. And what happens in the NFL in modern times down here in 2022? The better quarterback typically wins. The game is so built around the quarterback. It's so built around the offensive team, and especially the way that officials officiate games, the way that the rules are slanted toward the offense. It's so tough to be a defensive player in the NFL today. And I'm not saying that as someone who's bashing the officials. It's just the way it is. That's for all 32 teams. It is slanted towards the offense because that's what draws in the viewers. That's what gets people paying attention. Look, some old school football fans, they may really appreciate a 13-10 defensive slugfest. But if that was by and large the majority of games in the NFL, people would tune out. People like my wife, she wouldn't pay attention to that. She doesn't care about that. But if it's 38-35, it's an exciting game, yeah, people like my wife are watching, my mother's watching, my mother-in-law's watching. They like stuff like that. They like the scoring, okay? That's what draws in the viewers. So, anyway, coming up on 50 minutes in this video. Thank you for watching. If you have a comment, leave it below. Like I said, this is just my predictions. And I'm going to go, and we're going to do some Madden simulations as well. I did these last year. I'm going to try to figure out a way to do them live. We only have Madden on the PlayStation, and I do all of my live streaming and stuff here on the PC. So I'll figure out a way to get Madden up there, and we'll do... I'm not going to do it for the wild card weekend just because there's too many games. But starting next week in the divisional round, we will do simulations. We'll do 10 simulations for each game. And when I say simulations, I'm just going to let it autoplay, as fast as possible, like I did last year. And we'll record the results and see what happens. So that'll take a couple hours of time because I want to look at the stats in each game and record them and see who's doing what. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do that for starting the division. We're not going to do it for the wild card weekend. Don't have time this weekend anyway to do it. And yeah, thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Tell me that you like it. If you dislike it, I guess you can hit the dislike button if you want. But, you know, if you watch this video to the end, come on, pat yourself on the back, okay? I talk a lot, okay? I mean, I ramble on. I mean, all that nonsense about me talking about my 5th grade teacher teaching us about the NFL. I mean, you sat through all of that, and I applaud you for that. So, if you like this video, again, consider subscribing to the channel. Give me a thumbs up. Check out some of my other content on some of the games. Check out my Mass Effect movie series that I'm doing right now. I'm editing videos down to make Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 make it look like a Netflix series. Check it out. If you don't even know what Mass Effect is, check out my playlist on my channel. Look for Mass Effect the movie, you know, Season 1, Season 2. And then I'm still working on Season 2. I will get to Season 3 in the next month or so. And look, if you've never heard of it, watch it. Just watch it with an open mind. You might find that you like something. Again, yeah, it's a video game, but again, I present it in a format that plays out like a Netflix show. Very, very interesting story. So anyway, check it out. I promise you will like it if you like good stories. And again, thank you for watching this video. Again, thumbs up, likes and subscribes. Click the bell for notification, even though I don't know what the heck that does. I get notifications of things I'm not even subscribed to. So who knows, YouTube? Anyway, see you guys later. Good luck to your teams this weekend, the NFL playoffs, and go Chiefs.